Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 25th episode of the Forward Pass podcast. We've got myself, I'm in Pittsburgh in my sister's room. We got Luke Duska in Haverford, right outside Philadelphia, PA. And we got Sam Perry back in Austin, back into the corporate world. He's swamped with emails, but still found a way to be here with us tonight. And we thank him for that. Caleb Archer will be jumping on the podcast from Buford, Georgia in just a second. Family dinner had to take precedence, which we get because we're not revenue generating yet. But let's start here. Miami beat Ohio State 24-14 on January 31st, the last football game of 2025. Um, what an absolute what an incredible win for the Miami program, for the U, for Mario Cristobal, who's had this thing humming in the right direction, and then all of a sudden the Cam Ward, they don't have a defense, and then this year they lose two ACC games, and you think, like I don't know if they're going to be able to get in with Louisville and SMU losses, but this is what happens when you expand the college football field, the college football playoff field, because in any other year they would have not had the chance to get right and find this groove. And all of a sudden, they got a chance to find this groove. The trenches were obviously a strength in this game for Miami. One thing I wanted to look at is and wanted to talk about is just how they effectively ran the football, and they've been able to do this all year. And it's not just their linemen are they do get downhill, and they have super physical linemen. The linemen take care of the five hats they can take care of, but their receivers are also integral in the run game. They block their ass off. Malachi Tony, for a freshman, throws his body in there. They motion him in to crack safeties, crack linebackers, even crack defensive ends from time to time. And then, dude, their running backs just get downhill. Mark Fletcher is so hard to tackle. Could somebody what's that? The back, even the other back can really get downhill. So they went for 4.1 a carry, and running the football and throwing the football. It's a team assignment, and they just looked so impressive doing that. I mean, Ohio State is such a good football team, but they kind of just ran into a buzzsaw. And I thought Julian Sayin played pretty efficient, pretty well for the amount of pressure he got. Dude, they lined up Ruben Bain and Mesidor on the same side. Ruben Bain as at three tech a lot, just rushing guards, and dude, they looked really good. Obviously, the Keontae Scott pick six was another huge play in the game. That obviously that's I wouldn't put that on saying like. Jeremiah Smith kind of took a bad angle to block Keontae Scott, could have stayed more square, and then Keontae Scott makes you pay. But I don't think this is a detriment. I don't think this is a detriment on Ohio State or a flawed performance from them. I think they just ran into a really good Miami team who's somewhat of a buzzsaw right now. What say you guys?
Yeah, going off your Buzzsaw statement, this is not exactly similar, but it's very similar to a team like Ohio State last year that kind of had a few lapses, but had NFL talent all over the field on both offense and defense. And you're kind of seeing Miami right now peak at the right time. Talk about the game. First off, you mentioned it with lining up Ruben Bain and Metzler on the same side. Charlie, we were watching this together. We mentioned that a couple times while we were watching. Game ball to Corey Heatherman, the Miami defensive coordinator. I feel like they just had Julian Sayin in hell all night. That pass rush was elite. We kind of thought that that could be something to monitor in this game with Ohio State not really facing a defense to that caliber. Just like another few sneaky parts of this game, Miami's offense, while it did have a lot of short fields based off of turnovers, were sneaky, really efficient. They went 7 for 14, 50% on third down, and were able to average 4.5 yards a carry for 153 rushing yards. And Ohio State had only 45. We're going to get into Miami's rush defense a little bit later when we preview the Ole Miss game, but I mean, just an absolute defensive clinic. And yeah, like I said, you're watching a team peak at the right time. Beck only one interception, which is good on his accord. And I mean, outside of two sloppy quarters of football that cost Miami losses, like this is an elite team, and they're peaking at the right time, and it's gonna be really exciting for this Ole Miss matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I just echo basically what you two have been saying. And just want to admit how off I was in the prediction leading up to this game. I basically hung my hat on the fact that I didn't think Miami would be able to run the football at all against Ohio State, and they did very successfully. Mark Fletcher had 90 yards on 19 carries, and whenever it seemed like whenever they needed to get 4 or 5 yards out of Fletcher, they could pretty much get it at will. And in postseason games like this, when it really comes down to it, your trenches are going to carry your team to a win or a loss. And if you get completely annihilated in the trenches, like we'll talk about it with Alabama and Indiana as well. If you get completely annihilated on both sides of the ball, then you're not really going to have a chance of winning. And Miami had a clear and distinct advantage on both sides of the football in the on the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line is probably the best in the country. I know they weren't even nominated for the Joe Moore Award, but they just have insane talent on their offensive line, including Francis Mauigoa and Markel Bell, probably the best tackle duo in college football, maybe with the exception of Utah. But you can't say enough about how clean they were able to keep Beck and whenever they have Beck, it's not like Beck lit the world on fire, but whenever they have to go to the passing game, you know that Beck's going to have time and going to be able to operate in the pocket and make the decisions that he has to when Miami's relying on that, and that's a huge advantage in all of these playoff games because you saw with saying they didn't have the same, he was not afforded the same time and opportunity. And I just want to back up everything we've been saying about Bain and Mesidor with some stats. So I pulled these from PFF earlier, just sack numbers. Well, PFF says that Bain and Mesidor both have 11 sacks, but officially, uh, Mesidor has 10 and a half and Bain has 8.5. So they've combined for 19 sacks, just the two of them this year for Miami, which is a very significant number in college football. And Ruben Bain has 74 pressures, according to PFF this year, including 8 in this game. Mesidor has 61 and had 6 in this game. So that just backs up the fact that whenever they needed to get pressure on Sane, and whenever you line those guys up in pass rush situations, you're going to have a really distinct advantage over basically any team you play. And I'm not sure with the path ahead of them, I'm not sure there's any more teams left in their way where you'd be like, these guys aren't going to show up and these guys aren't going to be able to have an impact. And that's a huge advantage for Miami going into the semifinal and potentially the national championship round. So just overall, unbelievable performance by them. I'll admit every fault and every told you so coming my way. I was way off on this game, but seriously impressed by Miami's performance.
Yeah, I mean, and one guy I'd like to shout out, which is somebody that we talked about. We thought the coordinator edge went to Ohio State in this game. We thought Ryan Day versus what is it? Holder Sam, give me it again.
Corey
Heatherman.
Etherman.
Yeah, Corey Heatherman. And then we also the bigger one we thought was Shannon Dawson going against Matt Patricia, and Patricia's Ohio State defense looked really good. And Shannon Dawson did a wonderful job, not only constructing the game plan, but making some key play calls. The play where Fletcher scores on like the red zone where they do fake QB counter and then just flip it out to him, and he just completely out leveraged the defense, walk in touchdown. That was really impressive and just a schemed up play. But it also helps when you're just in third and two and third and fours all day. And Carson Beck looked really comfortable, which, like you said, Duska, that was not the case with Julian Saying. Julian Saying, like Jeremiah Smith is unbelievable. Like obviously with him and I mean next year, I just don't. That's gonna be really tough to stop all year, and you couldn't stop him this year. But there was a lot of third and nines where there's just Bain and Mesidor and even Marquise Lightfoot, the backup edge number 12, who was also getting after the quarterback. They're just breathing down Sain's face. So you put Beck in a really tenable situation. You ran the football, and you just physically imposed your will all game for the Hurricanes. And Shannon Dawson, though, I shout out him for just good game plan. Just gave Beck I mean, what Beck throw for like 134 and a touchdown, like pretty
He threw
efficient.
for, I have it right here. It's like 100. Carson Beck, 138, a
Yeah,
touchdown.
yeah,
And he had 13 straight completions at one point.
yeah. So, dude, the guy
So
was just on
efficient.
fire, super efficient. And
Also,
you go.
no, sorry, go ahead, finish
No,
up.
I was just saying that I think their aggregate playmaking at receiver has been better than I thought. I think Marion and CJ Daniels, anytime they need a play, like they get it and they get separation on a lot of really good DBs. And Ohio State secondary is nothing to wince an eye at.
And I think one thing that just reinforces everything we've been saying about Miami and the thing that was most impressive to me in this game was at one point in the fourth quarter it was 17-14. Ohio State definitely had a chance to come back and win the game. Miami got the ball with 5 minutes left in the game, and they went on a 10-play, 70-yard drive where they were just cracking runs
Yeah.
with Fletcher and getting conversions when they needed to, and they were able to punch it in with 55 seconds left on the clock. And when you can take the ball, eat up the other team's timeouts, and just put the game away like that against what a lot of people have considered to be the best defense in college football all year. I mean, the sky's the limit for your team, and that was, I mean, that's championship stuff, and was seriously impressive. So like we're just basically saying like Miami's so legit. I didn't expect it to look like this in this game, but with the way that they won this game against a team that I think is very good, and I think you guys would agree, it's just hard, pretty impressive, and they're going to be hard to deny.
Another quick thing about Miami, what I thought was super impressive too, was when, like you just said, Duska, was when Ohio State made that little push. It just felt like Miami was so calm in a game that no one really gave them a chance in, and they felt like they belonged in that situation. They dominated the game. So that's a really good testament to the staff over there and what they were able to put together on a game plan wise and just mental wise, because they were awesome, and a lot of credit to them.
Yeah, well said, everybody. We're gonna move on to the next college football game, which was Oregon beating Texas Tech 22 to nothing in a game that was not close in the slightest. And the one thing, like for the lead in, I'll just say this: football is a very simple game. It comes down to blocking, tackling, and quarterback play. And two out of those three things, Texas Tech excels at. They're elite for college football. And then the third thing, which was quarterback play, they're average, maybe a slightly above average. And we've expressed our concerns on Baron Morton all season long. I even went as far to say I liked Will Hammond more, their backup in some of those spots, because I thought he gave them a little more explosivity and a little more playmaking. Obviously he was getting pressure in his face a lot of the game. They didn't run the ball insanely effectively besides one kind of cat buster run. But dude, he looked extremely uncomfortable and he was inaccurate all game long to the flat, which is some of the easier throws. Like he wasn't very good. And I do think Oregon's edge Oregon's edge duo is not as prolific as what Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are, but they're two NFL edge players on the same football team, and that makes it really hard. And we're going to talk about this as we preview the Oregon and Indiana game, but they rely on those edges not just to rush the passer, but they stay in a lot of nickel, which means your edge players have to set the edge and make a lot of tackles, and they do that. So they're two Polynesian edges Mateo Uyunglele and Tuioti. Those guys were really good too. And Oregon's offense was particularly weird in this game. Like they usually run the ball super effectively. They weren't able to do it. In my opinion, that's basically just because this Texas Tech defense is unbelievable. David Bailey, I think I texted Luke after the game. I think he's my favorite edge player in this class, including the two Oregon and Miami
Going to be a
guys.
great Eagle.
Oh, okay, relax. David Bailey, David Bailey is unbelievable. 9 tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs. The defense was awesome. And they also have that number 2 in the middle, that defensive lineman. He's also unbelievable. I have his name written down, but I kind of, what'd you say? Okay, never mind. And then my padlock stat for the game was Texas Tech receivers combined for 4 catches and 48 yards. And anytime that happens, like they have guys well over 600 yards, 3 of them, and they had 48 for this game.
My padlock stat of the game is the turnover differential. 4 for Texas Tech and 1 for Oregon. And when you're playing a team the quality of Oregon, no matter how good your defense is, and I think Texas, ooh, there's Arch. I think Texas Tech's defense played well enough in this game to potentially win, but they were just put in such disadvantageous positions the entire game. Oregon had such short fields. And you were mentioning it was kind of weird, Oregon's offensive approach to this game. I think at some point they probably realized as well, similar to the Miami and Texas A&M game, they know that they're going to be able to cause mistakes to the other team's offense and that they're going to be in good situations for the most part so they don't have to be uber aggressive. They can kind of stick to a pretty simple game plan, and they know that a low point total is going to be able to win the game. And I think they played that way. They managed the ball effectively, and it's not the craziest offensive output by Oregon, but they definitely did enough to win. And like you're saying, it comes down to a difference in quarterback play, I think. And the way Texas Tech season was going to falter and go downhill was at the hands of Baron Morton. We've been saying that all year, and that's kind of what happened. And it looks like Texas Tech is immediately looking to ratify that issue by bringing in Brendan Sorsby, but it's a shame a team this good and by Texas Tech standards, pretty unique, and they don't usually have teams that they don't usually field teams at this level with one of the best defenses in the country. It's a shame they went out like this, but still an awesome season for them and setting the tone for they're probably going to be the class of the Big 12 from here on out. And this is kind of just the first step and the first building block for that.
I'll give two things about this game. I feel like there's really not that much to talk about. The first thing, so going into this game, I know like everyone has been saying Texas Tech's offense is horrible, their quarterback is terrible. Going into this game, granted, it was against Big 12 play. Texas Tech averaged 42 and a half points per game and around 480 yards per game. Obviously, they had 0 points in this game and just 215 yards. So I want to give a lot of credit to this Oregon defense because I think they're really sneakily elite. And that's not talked about as much because of that Indiana loss at home. And I think that there would be a lot different tunes sung about this Oregon team and their defense had they not have lost that game, which I actually think is going to pay major dividends for them in this next game. And then lastly, not as serious of a note, but my nomination for best name in college football is going to be Atticus Sappington, the Oregon
Oh,
kicker, who is
unbelievable
also
name.
a beast. He went
Their
3 for 3
nickname for
on
him
field
is
goals.
Automaticus too,
Really?
which is just awesome.
Yeah, he's sick.
That's great stuff.
It's just such a sick name. And
Confirmed on the internet that he's named after Atticus Finch, To Kill a Mockingbird character.
is he actually?
Yeah, yeah,
That's insane.
yeah.
But that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this one. It was just
Hey, Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter is number two, the defensive lineman for Texas Tech. Unbelievable as well. He's 330 pounds, moves like a dolphin out there. But yeah. And Caleb, you got any input on this matter?
I mean, I didn't hear before, but I assume it was kind of the same points.
Yep.
I kind of echo Duska's sentiment. Texas Tech's defense, like that's the reason I picked Texas Tech in this game, is I thought their defense was going to win it for them, and they honestly played. They played good enough, in my opinion, for them to win.
No doubt.
Their offense, like I know Sam referenced their Big 12 play, they were so reliant in Big 12 play. Like they're a very explosive offense. Like it's not methodical. It's big plays and explosive plays. And Oregon's defense is really good at stopping those all year. But I thought that was more to do with some of the teams Oregon played. But I mean, Oregon's defense came to play, and you can argue that was it them being good or Baron Morton being horrific. But I mean, Oregon did enough to win this game, and like y'all were mentioning with their offensive, like their style, I think I kind of echo what Chuck said about they knew what kind of game they could play, and they didn't need to go out of their way. Texas Tech was going to handle it for them.
Yeah.
I think both can be true. Real quick, I think both can be true on Baron Morton played horrible, but he was also put in situations to play horrible by Oregon's defense.
Yeah. I mean, one other guy I want to mention is Brandon Finney Jr. We talked about him a ton on the pod early in the year, again, especially in the Iowa game. He made a couple really big plays for Oregon in that rain slugfest. And dude, he was unbelievable in this game as well. He had two interceptions, a fumble recovery and a pick. He was making big plays. He was locked down on the outside for Oregon, which just gives them another really good defensive back. They have two safeties, Aaron Flowers and Dylan Thieneman, that are amazing. And then they have him at corner, Brandon Finney Jr., who's just a freshman, 19-year-old kid, and he flies around out there. So Oregon, a team to reckon with going forward. Sam, we'll get into that later. I'm going to give you the floor later in that on Oregon. But this game, the next game we're going to talk about, since we do have our Georgia fan in the building, we've got Ole Miss's stunning victory over Georgia. And it was tough. It was tough to watch as I predicted UGA to win the national championship, but midway through the third quarter, you just couldn't help but start rooting for Hottie Toddy and the Ole Miss. Like you literally could not help seeing Trinidad Chambliss and the explosivity of Ole Miss. It was such a fun game to watch. The Ole Miss offense is so balanced, filled with playmakers, and like we said earlier from the entire year since Trinidad Chambliss became the starter. He might be the best quarterback in college football, and he proved it in this game. I thought he was unbelievable. The three-play sequence where he runs around, pitches the ball, then he runs all the way back to the goal line, throws it to Kawhi Lacey. Lacey breaks a tackle from KJ Bolden for the first down. Next play, they roll him out right, and then he just throws a 40-yard frozen rope on the face mask to Wallace. And then, dude, third down. I thought it was weird, Arch. The only thing, again, Georgia, like we're nitpicking here, but the only thing was the man coverage call and the man coverage call. Like, what was your point on that? What was your feeling on that? Because Stribling,
on the
like,
3rd and 5.
yeah, Stribling
I'm pretty sure it
absolutely
was
fried him.
I'm pretty sure it was an MA on the safety, because if you look, it's cover 0 to the boundary and then to the field. I forget what part of the field, but then on the top side where we're on the, I think it was going to be the boundary where Ole Miss is tied in. It should have been cover 3 to the side of the
You're
trips,
saying,
and then
yeah,
the safety was
they
on the
didn't.
wrong side. The safety
They
should have aligned to the trips, and
they
that
were
would have made it
bracketing
all
the tight end that hadn't really been
that.
doing much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and like even then, like I don't know. I have if I'm allowed to take the floor now, because
Yeah, yeah.
I have three kind of points that I want to make about this game. First one, I think is most important. You saw the best and also the worst of Gunnar Stockton.
Yes.
You saw the best, which is his toughness, his character, his like resiliency. I mean, he was getting like decapitated on this field, and I think the most like powerful stance of him is him getting smoked on that play he throws to Cash Jones when he's scrambling out, and then he beats his offensive line to the line on 1st and goal to run a sneak. Like he gets like, so you see the best and worst of him, like toughness wise. Also, you see the worst of him when that toughness, obviously, the end of, like in games like this, that toughness on like those hits you take wear on you, and like throughout a season, it's not a very practical way to play quarterback, and that's going to be what I'm going to talk about with these hits. But my biggest issue with him is his lack of trust of the pocket and lack of trust in going through a progression. I think one of the big people are going to talk about that 4th and 2 play call we had that shouldn't have been snapped. Whatever. The 3rd and 3 call to me was like that's what you show. That's kind of what I'm going to echo. Stockton wasn't even at the top of his drop, and he sees that his first read is going to be covered because they're going to have 2 guys on him. Instead of looking at Lucky, instead of looking at Noah Thomas, and looking at Colby Young or anybody else in the field, he sees his first read, so he just tucks it and just runs into the line of scrimmage. Like if you're trying to play high level football at offense and your quarterback isn't trusting to go through a progression, you can only do so much. And that's when I'm so sick of these Georgia fans saying that Bobo was the problem and all this. I wasn't a big fan of some of the calls.
I mean, they put up 34.
27, but
it's true. But they put up 27
20.
with a quarterback that is a one read and tuck guy. Like Bobo,
that's what
I
I'm
feel like
saying.
Bobo's
Yeah.
doing his job.
He was scheming guys open all night. There's 6 plays I watched on the cut up of guys running free and Gunner not looking at him. But yes, that's my first point. You saw the best and worst of him. I hope that he progresses next year, being able to read a field and go through a defense, because if not, you're very limited on. You could have the greatest offensive coordinator in the world. If your quarterback isn't looking off his first read, you're never gonna maximize the full potential of an offense. And my second was Ole Miss executed in the high pressure situations, and UGA did not. That kind of speaks for itself. But the 3-play sequence that Chuck talked about earlier, the shovel, you almost had him there. Like that was, I think, the drive that turned the game for me. And then after he does the shovel, the next play is when you have 3 guys on him, you have contain on both sides, and you have a middle guy. And I'm not going to say their name, but they gave up contain. Champ was able to roll out, find Keywan Lacey. And then, so that was the first mistake by Georgia in that play. The second one is Bolden. Like, you're getting a kill shot on this running back. He's in the air when you hit him, and then you let him, like, you throw a shoulder into him and try and, like, knock him instead of just wrapping up. Because if you wrapped him up, it would have been 4th and 1. And, I mean, they could have went for it, but instead you threw a shoulder, like, 2 mistakes in that play. And then Chuck said the next play when he rolls out and hits the corner out, I believe, just like a dime.
See, but I feel like we're nitpicking that because I just feel like that's unbelievable from Trinidad Chambliss. I feel like we're asking Georgia to do something that's not guardable, and I get like the nitpicking, but like, dude, that was
Losing
literally
contain was guardable in my
special,
opinion.
just special stuff,
Losing contain on a corner when he gets pressures.
dude.
I feel like that's the high pressure situation I'm talking about.
But Dalen Everett in all the other high pressure situations was unbelievable, dude. Like I thought he played so well. Like he
I
obviously
think
has
he played well,
the
but
touchdown. He has the
that's a
touchdown.
play that you have to, like, that is a high pressure situation that if Georgia gets a sack there or at least forces the throwaway, you're looking at 4th and 5 and they're punting it.
Sure, but if
Instead,
but
instead you knife and you lose contain, let him get outside, and then it's a first down. And then I mean that's not the play that loses you the game, but
no,
those
well,
are like
dude.
small high pressure situations that
All
when
right,
you
I'll
combine
talk
with
about
three
the
of them
high
on the
pressure
play
situation.
stand.
Dude, they get up, they're down they're in the fourth quarter. They have the ball and they get held to a field goal late in the game when they could have scored a touchdown and they were in a perfect position to score a touchdown. Like that's more them not executing at the end of the game, more of a big pressure than like losing contain on a corner blitz.
I mean that was the first part of these high
Yeah.
pressure situations I'm talking about. I mean
Yeah.
those high pressure situations that happen to be. I'm not saying those are more important than the offensive sequence on the goal line because I couldn't even talk. I was so mad about that sequence, but
Yeah.
those are the things that, like, I don't think. And another thing I guess to go on with this is Ole Miss like dominated in success rate. I don't know if anybody like looked at the advanced analytics. They were like 20 points higher than us. So like and you kind of that goes into my third point. The third quarter offensive execution from Georgia, and then like the adjustments at a halftime that Ole Miss's defense made to stop the run, bring in extra alignment. Like they Golding, like, he did a phenomenal job because the first two drives Georgia didn't really run the ball, but the third and fourth drive when Georgia leaned on them and really got like moving, you kind of sense that if that was going to be there all day, Georgia would like run them out of the building. And in the third quarter, Ole Miss adjusts. Yeah, I mean, in this, like, to go with like the third quarter play calling, it felt very fortuitous that Georgia was up 12 at half, in my opinion. You had a miscue on the field goal before half from Ole Miss. You had a scoop and score. You had a lot of drops from Ole Miss's receivers in that first half, and that's why it felt to me in the third quarter you needed to take advantage of these and put this game out of reach. And you failed to do that. And credit Ole Miss, they made the grid adjustments, they made everything happen. I think that the drive that's like going to hurt the most to look back on is when you stop them on 4th and 1 at the 50, and then you miss a field goal on that drive, or you don't get any points out of it. Like those are the swings in a game where you could have put it to a 15-point game. You could have put it to a 19-point game. You could have put it in a 3-score game. And instead you don't put them away. And then when you don't put away a good team, like the whole like cutting the head off the snake at Georgia, you didn't cut off the head off of Ole Miss's snake. And they bit you in the fourth quarter, and they bit you to the point you couldn't win. So I mean, those are like kind of my 3 points about it. I mean, I could probably talk about this game for 2 hours because
Yeah.
I was just so upset about it. Like, because it just felt like a vintage like Georgia way to Ole Miss like did what Georgia does, which is like they hang around, they strike, and then they strike again because they're not dead. And that's like it felt horrible for it to happen to Georgia this time. But
Damn.
like I said, credit Ole Miss. Chambliss played a great game. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one.
Let's get Sam in on here.
Well, I was literally about to say everyone always talks about Georgia. You have to cut the head off the snake of Georgia. They had to do the same thing to Ole Miss. But the most underrated play of the game, in my opinion, the sneakiest game ball of the game is going to go to number 14 on Ole Miss, the safety. Kapina Gushkin. I don't even know how to say his last name.
He got
Colby
bombed on.
Young runs what I think was just a straight fade to the field goal post. He
Was on
would
the
be
last drive.
on the last drive. He would be
Slant and
naked, wide
go.
open
Yeah.
for a touchdown. He grabs him, holding call, automatic first down, whatever. But that's a touchdown every day of the week. Barbecue chicken, 6. Georgia goes up, and it's a whole different ballgame. So that's something that is not getting talked about. That holding call saved them the game.
True. Well, he was getting attacked all game and getting fried. So I'm glad he got fried so bad that he could just hold, you know. That's
So
a
game ball to him. Obviously, Trinidad Chambliss was epic in this game. Lightning in a bottle, like a Johnny Manziel type performance where
yeah.
literally some of these throws, like watching it back, were just incredible. And I know Arch has a lot of things to say about Georgia, but there also has to be a point where you just tip your cap and you're like, we just ran into a hot pitcher. We ran into a hot hand.
Yep.
Um, and then lastly, not exactly football related, but I thought that the commentating by Sean McDonough like matched the moment completely in this game. He was awesome, brought a ton of energy. He got a lot of flowers on Twitter and social media post game for how he did, and he actually just won announcer of the year right before that, which was cool for him. But yeah, this is one of those games that our young kids are going to watch like college football playoff highlights, and this game is going to be on it. So we were really lucky to get to experience this as the primetime nightcap dessert of the quarterfinal round, which is just setting the stage for like what Duska said in the chat earlier, just a really unique and fun Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, you guys basically said everything. Sam, I'm honestly surprised you didn't tip your hat to the Ole Miss kicker as well, Quinero.
Mm.
Two
Oh, Charlie
55
and I were
yard
watching
kicks,
him.
two 55-yard kicks back to back to start the game, and then he nails the game winner from 47 out as well. And one play I want to highlight because you guys talked about it. Georgia lost this game on the margins. There was a few plays that close games like this always come down to, and when one team's able to execute and one team isn't, and is miscommunicating or missing assignments, then you're going to lose the game. And that happened to Georgia in this one. They were very close. The one play for me, I don't think we highlighted it yet, was when Shamlis had his unbelievable drive, the 3 plays in a row. Um, Kyron Lacey punches it in. They convert the 2 point, go up 27-24. Georgia gets the ball and they go 3 and out. And then they do that special teams punt unit type deal where they run the punt unit off the field and run the offense back on. And then they run a play on 4th and 4 from their own like 30. And the center snapped it early. It was a 5-man. So here's how I saw it. It was 5-man pro. The center snapped the ball early, so the communication was definitely off. They were sliding to the right, but there was still only 5 guys in the box, or there might have been 6 guys, but they only ended up rushing 3. And Monroe Freeling, I guess because the ball was snapped late, he was in a dual read and thought that the linebacker who was at backer depth was blitzing, but the edge goes completely unblocked and sacks Gunner, and then Ole Miss goes down and scores another touchdown to make it a 2-score game. It's plays like that that are on the margins where we saw it in the Alabama game too earlier in the year. Georgia, it was I forget the exact situation, but it was the play where Cash Jones got tackled on 4th down and Georgia MA'd and a guy just made an easy play. They lose these games on the margins where they're just a little unprepared for that moment, or they're a little too aggressive. And I think a slight combination of both took place here. And Kirby, you can't knock him. He usually pulls the right strings. He's the best the game has right now, but situations like that, those always seem to come back up in these big moments. And it's times like that where you see a team like Ole Miss be able to take advantage of that. And if they have a quarterback that's as hot as Shambliss, then they're going to be able to do that. And that's what they did in this game, and it gave me flashbacks just because Monroe Freeling was involved to last year when he obviously different situation when he gave up the strip sack against Notre Dame in the same exact game. So just you always see like the little small details that are off that end up costing a team, and for a team like Georgia that plays so well and is always in close games like this, it's always going to be like the little tiny things that don't go your way that are going to end up costing you in big moments like this. And it's not a Georgia issue in particular. It's just when they lose, they're never really getting blown out. So it's always a situation where like this, where there's so many opportunities in the game where they could have had an edge or taken over and they weren't able to. And it's unfortunate that their season ended that way. But Ole Miss deserves all the credit in the world and what they've been able to do without Lane Kiffin. And that'll be talked about forever, depending on how deep this run goes. But Trinidad Chambliss is unbelievable. And it's hard for me to think that he's not going to be a good pro quarterback based off the way he played in that game. He was so accurate. And I don't know. It's hard for me to watch a guy like that and just be like, oh, he's just a good college quarterback.
Yeah, I made the comparison that if you watch Baker Mayfield from 2016, 2017, how do you not see like he's a more
Mhm.
athletic version and has like spurts of better accuracy than Baker Mayfield. He's not going to be picked first overall, but maybe in 2027 he could be because that guy's gross and he could play ball.
Mhm.
Okay, the next game we're gonna do. The intro is just gonna be one of my favorite chants out there that Dust can put me on. Hoosiers! And the Hoosiers stomp Bama 38-3. Me and Sam had two friends, Eli Oakham and Hudson Siebold, who we have continually brought up on the pod as this Indiana team went on the run. They were boots on the ground in Pasadena, California for the Orange Bowl. The rain could not stop the magic that happened in California on the Rose Bowl. Just a scenic college football game. They if they end up doing something with the bowls and one has to be the national championship, it should be this one, no doubt. But with that said, this Alabama football team, it's been incomplete all year. It's been incomplete from the standpoint that they do not run the football, and Ty Simpson is put in very disadvantageous situations where he's got to convert tons of 3rd and 8s with pressure in his face, and he legitimately gets no run game. Bama was 17 attempts for 23 yards. They didn't even try. 1.4 yards per carry. On the other hand, Indiana, in the Big Ten championship game, we posed the question, can Indiana run the football against really good defenses? That was the question we posed as a podcast. Well, the answer is yes. Emphatically yes. Indiana went for 50 carries. 50 carries. That just wears the defense down if you run for 50 yards, 50 carries. Then they ran for 250. That's 4.1 carry. Just backbreaking for an Alabama defense that was just getting no help from its offense. Tons of 3-and-outs. Obviously, when Ty Simpson goes out, the game's over. Austin Mack isn't going to pull any late game heroics. But one thing we talked about in our Week 7 recap show after the Oregon game, we talked about 3 things that, because you always ask, how has Indiana done this? And we're going to re-hit upon those 3 key points of how Indiana has been able to continue the success and do it in such a short period of time, and why Kurt Cignetti's such a wizard. The first thing, football player identification and development. So Surratt, for example, Elijah Surratt, he started at St. Francis University in Ebensburg, PA, an FCS school. He then goes to JMU. He then goes to Indiana, and then he's going to be an NFL draft pick. Those type of player development situations where you take under recruited guys and develop them into NFL talent, that is something that they've been able to do. The second thing is staff cohesion. Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, and Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, have been with SIG for a decade. Since IUP, they've been there for a decade. And they've been with, so these are SIG's guys, and they just know how to coach together. They know how to put game plans together. Whatever, they put over 100 game plans together as a staff. So whenever you have that type of staff cohesion, you just don't see that anymore in college football. And then they play fast. Their culture, their scheme, they've taken root. The culture and scheme have taken root, obviously, from just the same messaging for so long. And they go out and they execute. And it all those things are super simple in to speak, but they're really hard to implement, especially in today's college football where you do have to utilize the portal. And a lot of times coaching staffs are broken apart every year. I mean, we're seeing Oregon right now lose both their coordinators. We're seeing Ole Miss have to go through what they're going through. So it's just super impressive what Indiana has done. The alumni, it's the second biggest alumni base in the country behind Ohio State. It's a sleeping giant as a program in terms of just capital they have. The Alabama graduates, they're not going to Chicago and starting companies. The Indiana graduates are. And that's the thing we're seeing with Indiana. And it's cool for Bloomington.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier in the year, and I'm glad I finally bought into the Indiana hype and am finally on the right side of result by Indiana. But a team, you just mentioned the 3 things that the fundamentals of Indiana that make them great with their coaching staff, and a team usually takes on the identity of their coach and by proxy also their quarterback. And I think they have the perfect combination of the two to take on it's a culture of just pure belief. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They believe that they're going to win. And I described it earlier this year as just it's the type of belief where it's not even logical, but you believe it anyway. And you can see that in the way they play and the way they approach these games. And we've talked about it all year. The blue chip composite is never in their favor, but they're still able to find an edge in these games. They made Alabama quit in this game, and they made them tap out. And we talked about trench play from the Miami and Ohio State game. If you're getting dominated on both sides of the ball, then you're going to tap out at some point. And if you have an advantage on your offensive and defensive lines, you're going to be able to carry. That's just going to be able to propel you to in any situation that you need them to come up big. They're going to be able to do that, and you just see that in Indiana's play style, and they're always able to dial things up, even if they don't have an advantage physically. They're going to dial something up on defense to get a pressure, or they're going to find a way to run the ball effectively, and you just see that every game. They have a guy that's probably the best quarterback in the country, and he has pure belief in his team and in himself, and that you can see that in the way he plays as well. And I think the overarching theme is that Signetti and Mendoza are the perfect combination for a team that's overlooked despite their success to be able to carry that belief and momentum into every game and be able to execute at a high level no matter what the situation is. So you see that in the way that those two operate. Add in the development and staff cohesion, all the stuff Charlie just mentioned. That combination is going to be Indiana, and it doesn't matter that they're Indiana and that there's no precedent for them being good at football. If you have that combination, it's going to be successful no matter where you're at. And all of the teams that we consider blue bloods nowadays, at some point they weren't, and they had to build that culture and identity that you see in those teams over time. And it's possible for teams to do this in the modern era. And I think Indiana's uh, a good example of that. I think another would be like Oregon. The way you look at Oregon now, that's not the way they've been looked at for the majority of the history of college football. But every now and then, a certain coach or person that can give money to a program comes along and is able to build up the cachet and brand of a team, and you see that with Indiana, and they already have a very passionate
Dabo, I was saying
basketball.
Dabo as well. Dabo Clemson.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and Clemson had a national championship in like the 80s, but they weren't considered in the same light as the blue bloods that you commonly think of. And Indiana, they have the basketball. It's a basketball state, but they also have that fervor, and there's enough passion in that fan base that if their football team's good, they're going to care and show up for that team. And it's cool to see a fan base like Indiana, who was so dormant in football for so long, finally have something to root for. And you see the support that Indiana's getting, and they dominated the stands in that game. There was a distinct Indiana
Like
advantage to,
75 or
yeah.
70%. Yeah.
And they're not to be taken lightly. And if Signetti continues along this path, it's going to be a school that's set up to be a contending football program for a long time. And it's exciting that we have a fresh program to kind of be considered in that light. And it's a historic win for them. They won the Rose Bowl against Alabama, which is just insane to think about. If you told someone that 3 years ago, they would have called you crazy, and for good reason.
Yeah, I was going to talk about well, I guess one thing like goes along with Chuck's first point, like the development. I think one of the more important things that like doesn't really jump off the page until you look at it is the veteran presence that Indiana has along their starting 11 on offense, defense, and then special teams. I believe it's in the 22 or 20, like between 22 and 23 is their average age of their starting lineup, which in this age of college football is probably one of the more important things I would say is having with all of the fluidity of rosters with the portal and stuff like that, having a veteran roster and like all the like I'm not dumb. Most of these guys did not come to Indiana as freshmen, but they came with the same like the JMU. They came with the same coaching staff and they developed like at each stop with Sig and the other assistant coaches they had where they are now. And I think that the age really does matter and it gives them a huge advantage. I think it was very smart of them to try and build a old roster that you can keep together because like I said, I think that's really important, I guess, in especially in games like this. And then my point about Alabama is I think I put too much stock from their defense in them shutting down or really minimizing Oklahoma in that second half. And I took more from that than I should because I remember I texted y'all at halftime, or I guess it was, I think it was halftime, that I thought that I thought Indiana was going to have their way at some points against this Alabama defense, but I thought Alabama's defense would be more look more athletic and more physical than Indiana. And like I texted the group chat and I said they look like the biggest shock to me is how slow Alabama's defense looks right now. And like you saw it in the first quarter, like I don't know, like in the first quarter when it was like close 3-0, whatever, it just felt like it was going to happen and Indiana was going to explode, and then they ended up doing it right before half when they put, I think, believe went up 21-3. I want to say, but yeah, I mean, Alabama's defense looks slow, and that's due to what Chuck talked about. Indiana's execution being at such a high level that at a certain point, talent, athleticism, something that doesn't matter when you have such a like a high level scheme and you execute it at such a high level that your players are flying around and not thinking. So hats off to Indiana. They absolutely dominated, and I looked like an idiot once again picking Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going to give two quick rundowns of what I think from both sides. First, I think on Indiana's side, it's something that Charlie and I were talking about earlier today, and it's something that you really can't quantify. And it's just the power of a team and the unity of a team. And people make fun of Mendoza a lot for his post-game press conferences and how he's, how he is. But I think that something that's really special about this Indiana team, and a big credit to the staff for being able to do this, is when you have all these guys come in from the portal. And like you said, someone, I think it was Tuska said, not many of these guys came in as freshmen, they came in as transfers. So these guys haven't necessarily been playing together for 4 years, and yet they're all veterans and they play as such a strong unit. And the bond that they have and the calmness that they have, like you're going to the Rose Bowl as University of Indiana, like even your own fans at points don't even think you're that legit. And then, you go 3-and-out to start the game. Everyone in the media is like, oh, it's still Alabama and it's still Indiana. And then you just go out and completely annihilate Alabama. And what is almost cinematic, and Indiana kind of announcing themselves on the biggest stage against the most historic and successful team of the past 25 years. So just awesome stuff. And then on to the Alabama side, looking at Alabama kind of like a stock. And at the beginning of the year, it was very low after they got smoked by Florida State. Then it slowly rises and then it peaks, right? They win, I think it was 4 in a row against ranked opponents. And everyone thought they were this unstoppable team, right? And they're up here now. And there is a clear point of regression. Something happened to them that broke them. And it was when they walked into Williams-Brice Stadium, went toe to toe with the Cox, should have lost the game outright. And the Cox just helped the college football world by showing Alabama's flaws. And ever since that game, they've not been the same. So you are welcome, America, for breaking the tide.
Also seems like Ty Simpson was a little more injured than we thought. And I know he got pulled in this game, but I don't remember hearing about the elbow issue against Oklahoma and in games before that.
Sam, I
But
love that.
yeah, that was
But yeah,
great.
but yeah,
It's true.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Both of you guys are right. Obviously, Simpson was not right. The Cox, we'll never know, but this podcast believes that they broke the tide, and um, there's going to be a lot of self-evaluation from the Alabama Crimson Tide and from that staff, from Grubb and
Would you guys
DeBoer.
run it back with Simpson, DeBoer, that infrastructure? I would
Yeah,
say
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, like
absolutely.
literally wouldn't even think about it. And you let DeBoer, dude. He didn't have it all figured out at Washington. I mean, at Washington at one point, and you give him a little bit of time at Washington. One of the key pillars to Washington was that they could run the ball, and their offensive line was awesome. Alabama is not at that place yet. They have the quarterback down, they have the skill positions down. It's going to take DeBoer a little bit more time to kind of find. You don't build offensive linemen in like a tech like on your phone. You build it in a warehouse with wood and saws. It's not you don't just they don't just sprout. Like it takes a lot to develop those things. So
I think people might not remember, but Washington's O line the year that they went to the national championship game, they had a first round tackle, a second round tackle, and they had Parker Brailsford, who is probably a day two NFL guy who's on the Alabama roster currently. But they it wasn't just like rolling out a Jimmy and Joe Pac-12 offensive line and
no,
they just tossed the ball around. They
if
they
you
also had a run game.
if you watch the Ravens Steelers game the other day, the tackle T.J. Watt kept going against and kept losing to was Roger Rosengarten. That's
The
the
goat.
Washington tackle. So uh, yeah, Good point, Duska. But since we've been talking about Indiana, we're going to transition this to the college football semifinal, a very intriguing part of this tournament. We're going to start with the Indiana-Oregon game, a rematch from week 7, when the Hoosiers went into Eugene and beat the Ducks 30-20. Now, one thing I wanted to point out to the viewers is these teams profile very, very similar to each other. So we're talking about probably the first round pick, the first pick of the draft, and the second pick of the draft, according to a lot of mocks, with Mendoza and Moore at quarterback. At running back, both teams use a stable of backs. Indiana has Hemby and Black, Roman Hemby and Kalen Black. Oregon has Whittington and Davison. They also have a third who comes in
Hill.
for, huh?
Hill.
He just
Right?
entered the
Yeah.
portal, actually, I think.
Oh, really?
Somebody, one of the Indiana backs. Well, Lamar was the other one that also 27 comes in the game. Anyway, at receiver, they're both very talented. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., Charlie Becker. And then Oregon, because of the injuries to Evan Stewart, and then DeCorian Moore, Malik Benson has stepped up. Jeremiah McClellan has stepped up. Gary Bryan has also stepped up. Well, he got hurt, but he's back into the lineup as a veteran receiver presence. And they have two unbelievable tight ends in Kenyon Sadiq and Johnson. So although the receiver core isn't as explosive as Indiana, with their tight, if you put their tight ends together, they match them completely. The O lines have both protected their crown jewel quarterbacks all year, and they very rarely have struggled to run the ball. The one instance being Oregon last week versus the Texas Tech front. At defensive back, they're both anchored by veteran safeties, one Oregon being Dylan Thieneman, for Indiana, Lewis Moore. And then at corner, they both have playmakers. Brendan Finney Jr. for Oregon won Defensive Player of the Game in his quarterfinal, and then Diego Pounds won Defensive Player of the Game in his quarterfinal. Those are both corner for Indiana, corner for Oregon. And then at linebacker, Bryce Betcher for Oregon and Elijah Hardy for Indiana. They kind of hold down the fort, and Bryce has 125 tackles, which is sickeningly good. So they profile very similarly as teams. They're both Big Ten teams. Now here's where they do differ, though, and it'll be kind of fun to watch. So Oregon plays a nickel package. They always want to have 5 defensive backs on the field, which works for them because they have 2 elite tacklers at safeties, Aaron Flowers and Dylan Thieneman. And then they have 2 edge players that kind of funnel everything into the middle of the defense so that the safeties and middle linebacker Betcher can clean everything up. They have Mateo and they have Tuioti. So they only have only one of their top 4 tacklers is a traditional linebacker. When you think of a linebacker playing at 5 yards depth, right above the center, right? So they only have one of those, right? Indiana, on the other hand, they play a base 3-4-3 defense pretty much all the time. They want to be in the 4-3. They want to have 3 traditional linebackers on the field at the same time. Those 3 linebackers, Isaiah Jones, Elijah Hardy, and number 4, those guys all have
Aiden Fisher.
Yeah, Aiden Fisher. Thank you, Duska. They're 3 of their 4 leading tacklers along with Lewis Moore. So they're just structured way differently on defense. But it's because they don't have as good of edge players, Indiana. So they rely on their linebackers to make a ton of tackles, make a ton of plays. And they also have they like their interior defensive linemen more than they do their edge players. So it's kind of fascinating the different like schemes that they both have. And it's going to be cool to kind of see how they attack each other. But the defensive structure is how they differ. But in terms of structure as an organization and as a team, they're very similar. So it's going to be fascinating to watch these teams duke it out. Anybody
Yeah,
want to
I was
start?
going to say, I'll talk about. I'm going to be pretty brief on this, but I remember back on this before this week 7, we did this one of like the big previews of that week. I remember saying I didn't know if this was like a casual thing to say, but to me, from watching both teams so far, I didn't see that big of a difference between these 2 teams. That's why I didn't understand when Oregon was hanging 7 there in Eugene. I just didn't see that much of a difference. And it kind of goes on to what I like talked about all year with Indiana. Their team talent, their blue chip ratio, it's never going to be higher than these teams they're playing. But and that's kind of the only way I saw Oregon having the advantage in this first matchup. But as I talked about for the Rose Bowl recap, team talent and these like composite rankings don't matter when you've executed your scheme to the point that Indiana has, and that's when that takes over your blue chip ratio, your talent composite, and all that. So I think like going into this game, like Oregon clearly has this matchup. Like they clearly have like the higher talent, but it didn't matter in the regular season. I don't think it's going to matter now. Because like I said, Indiana's executing just like such a high level, and that's how they overcome the talent gaps that they've experienced honestly all year. Because probably 30% of the teams they played on their schedule have had a higher team talent ratio than them, and they're the ones still dancing. All those teams except Oregon are back home.
Yeah, one of a storyline that I want to focus on in this game, obviously outside of the fact that these teams already played, is I think something's going to give in this game because you have two of the best rushing offenses in the country. Indiana around 220 yards a game and Oregon around 206 yards a game. And then two of the best rush defenses going against each other. So I think that this could be a very low scoring game, similar to that Big Ten championship game where it's kind of a slugfest and it could almost turn into who makes the biggest mistake, who misses that 35-yard field goal, or who can't finish a drive. I think that's the number one thing that we're going to be looking back on next week when we talk about this game is who was able to convert in the red zone, who was able to get seven instead of three, who wins the turnover battle, obviously, and then who wins the special teams battle. We keep coming back on this, but in some of these really high level games with really high level defenses, that can be and has been the difference in these games. So I want the viewers to look out for that while you're watching and maybe you're like, oh, well, this is kind of boring, it's slow, but this is two elite defenses and two elite run games. And another awesome storyline is you have the potential number one versus number two pick in the draft duking it out um, on offense. So I'm interested to see how creative these offenses are going to be able to get. And but I predict that Indiana will make a mistake and Oregon will get their revenge in this one.
Yeah, I want to preface my prediction first by saying I think Dan Lanning's my favorite coach in college football, and I'm always super bought in with the Ducks, and I watch Ducks versus them every
I
week.
was about to
Probably
say,
the
there it
best.
is. Yeah.
That's probably the best content any college football program puts out in the world. And I love the Oregon program. But I distinctly remember in that week 7 game how overwhelmed their offensive line was by the pressure that Indiana was able to generate on them. And Indiana finished that game with 6 sacks, including 1 sack each for Fisher, Hardy, and Jones, their starting linebackers. And their front seven was wreaking havoc. And it was a lot of simulated pressures, a lot of games. It wasn't traditional head up one-on-one pass rushes because I think Oregon, if that's the situation, they have an advantage and they'll give Dante more time. But Indiana was able to scheme up so well defensively, and they're going to have a fastball in this game that they're going to be able to go back to, just like they were in that game. And Oregon does have the film from that game, and they have stuff they can correct and be ready for, indicators that they're ready for now. But you have to believe that Indiana's going to not even a fastball. They're going to throw them a curveball, and it's going to be something they're not prepped for. But you have to trust that their staff's going to be able to find a way to generate pressure again, and the game's going to hinge on that. Is Oregon going to be able to protect Dante Moore? Because in the first contest, both teams weren't able to run the ball that well, and it came down to a lot of can I make the right decision? Can I make an accurate throw here and put my team in a good position to win? And I think Pavia did throw a pick six in that first contest, but we've seen, or not Pavia, sorry, Mendoza threw a pick six in that first contest, and that's definitely should be considered. But we've seen throughout the season, he's been able to make the massive throws in those big moments when you need him to. And it seems like when the pressure's on the highest degree, and you need Fernando de Mendoza to put a drive together and make the right throws and make the right decisions. He's been able to do that. He did it against Penn State and he did it against Ohio State. And I just I waxed poetically for so long about Indiana a few minutes ago. I'm not gonna hop off the bandwagon 1 week later, despite how much I enjoy the Oregon program. So with that said, I'm gonna lean towards Indiana in this game. I think it's going to be very close, like Sam was saying, but I think that Indiana is just going to be able to find the margin where they need to, and they have more proof of being able to come up in those big moments. And I think they have the guy quarterback that's going to be able to execute when they need him to. And the moment's not going to overwhelm him. He's going to be prepped and ready to go here. And I'm just trusting in that. I'm trusting in the Signetti Mendoza combo, and I'm going to stick to the Hoosier bandwagon and say that they're going to punch their ticket to the national championship.
Yeah, Duska, I am also aligned with you. I like Indiana. I like their story, and I just think they're such a balanced football team, the most balanced football team in the country. And when it comes to playoff football games, like if they need to hang 40 to win this game, I think they can. If they need to hang 13 and play defense, they can. They did it against Ohio State. So they've shown a bunch of different ways to win football games. They beat Iowa in a close game where they needed a last minute drive. Same thing with Penn State. They needed a last minute drive. So it's not like this team hasn't been battle tested. Well, with that said, for Indiana, it's like I do think Indiana, I'm picking them to win the game. The one matchup that I think we're gonna have to keep an eye on is the Oregon tight ends against the linebackers of Indiana. When you do play a lot of 4-3 defense, you lose a defensive back, but you add a linebacker. Well, linebackers are far worse in coverage than safeties or nickels. And that's what Jamari Johnson and Kenyon Sadiq, they love going on linebackers, especially white linebackers. So that's kind of going to be a huge hinge point on the game is our Jamari Johnson, who led the team in receiving last game, and Kenyon Sadiq, who is the best tight end in the country. Is that duo gonna be utilized in the middle of the field in matchups all over? Because I think Oregon is gonna want to exploit that matchup more than they did in that first go around, especially as answers to some of those devious blitzes that they do scheme up. But so I feel like that's Oregon's path to victory. But I'm taking Indiana. I can't wait to go for the Hoosiers.
I remember talking about that prior to the Big Ten championship with Max Clare.
Yeah,
I think we were talking about the same thing, and Indiana was able to hold him in check in that game. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a common theme or
yeah.
what you're saying comes true.
Well, I do think Max Clare isn't as good as these two. But we'll
Fair.
see.
Very
But you're
fair.
right. No, you're right. That's why Indiana's awesome because there's no holes. It's gonna be like they make plays. It's not gonna be like there's a blown coverage. It's gonna be like a seam ball, Friarmuth seam ball. Me and Sam know about the Friarmuth seam ball. Um,
I will say, Yanze Pierre was able to generate a little pressure, so Oregon has good edges, and I think that they'll be able to heat up Mendoza a little bit.
I love my poly
And
edges.
yeah, I think whatever team's able to generate more pressure and make the other quarterback uncomfortable is going to have a big advantage. So I think both teams are capable of it, and we're going to see pretty fast who's up to it and which offensive line is more prepared to protect.
Yeah. It, Dusko, tell me if you agree with this. Oregon they rely more on like just a four-man pressure because they have amazing edge rushers. Like
Hmm.
you said, Indiana relies on sim pressures, and sim pressures are awesome, or just pressures in general are awesome. They also leave your defense a little bit more
Yeah.
exposed as opposed to just staying in base defense and rushing four. So like a team hasn't been able to do this yet, but if a team were to exploit and like be able to protect those pressures and those simulated pressures, and Dante Moore was able to be kept a little bit cleaner, that is where Oregon can exploit that matchup. But like I said, give me the Hoosiers to stay balanced and figure out a way to win this game because I don't know how it's going to be. Okay, literally, it could be 6-3 and it could be 40-38. What do any guys have a feeling on of what type of game we get here?
I think, like Sam said, low scoring defensive battle, and it's going to come down to making big plays at the end.
And you'll see a little feeling out early on too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be like a not high scoring, like not like a shootout in the 40s, but it's not gonna be like the Big Ten championships. I think it's gonna be 27-21 Indiana.
Mm.
I like that. Arch, I lean more you. I think the offenses might figure it out a little more.
I think like I think there could be some feeling out, but I also think there's so much like these offensive coordinators are going to be in their bag on the scripted drives to
And
start, in my opinion.
such good quarterback play.
Yeah.
So it's not like a lopsided quarterback play game like we've seen like in the Texas Tech Oregon game. Like this is going to be just two guys that know how to play the position. But well, I really like doing that. Can't wait to watch that football game. But there is another playoff game, and that's going to be Ole Miss going against Miami. And instead of me gonna rambling for the first part of this, I'm gonna kick the mic to Sam Perry, and he's gonna start this preview.
Yeah, this is an awesome semi. You have a non-traditional SEC power that's come alive the last 2 years with Ole Miss, and then this buzzsaw in Miami, whose defense completely smothered Ohio State, and they won a thriller in College Station. And obviously, the talk the last week was Chambliss in that epic performance that he put on, and everyone's saying, is Chambliss going to be able to keep it going? Is this Miami defense going to be too much for him? But I think one of the main hinge points in this game is going to be on Kawan Lacey and Ole Miss's rushing attack. Miami boasts the fourth ranked rush defense in the country with only allowing 84 yards in a game per game this year. And in order for Ole Miss to hit these explosive downfield plays and for Chambliss to be able to hit his guys deep like he was able to do in the Georgia game, they're going to have to win on first and second downs on the ground. And that being said, if not, they're going to have to be really creative with Chambliss. There's been a few times this year, especially in the first Georgia game. I don't know if you guys remember, but Georgia was really able to heat Chambliss up in that fourth quarter and bat a lot of balls down. We actually talked about that, Charlie, watching the beginning because Georgia had a couple batted balls,
Yep.
and that's been a small problem with Chambliss is him getting the ball batted because of his height. So I'm really interested to see how Charlie Weiss is going to be able to creatively get him out of the pocket and kind of do his best to take Mesidor and Bain out of this game. I know obviously you're not going to be able to do that, but to do his best to limit them and not let them do what they did to Julian Sayin to Trinidad Chambliss. And then the last thing on Chambliss, like he is just on, and I said this earlier, just an epic tear. Like Pate's been saying, like Deshaun Watson or like Johnny Manziel. And sometimes when you're hot like this, when you're throwing your fastball and curveball really well, like a hot pitcher, like there is nothing you can do to stop this. And I think that's the beauty of college football is like you just can't, sometimes you cannot stop and you can't quantify the stats or anything, but it's just a hot quarterback that you cannot stop. And this guy's going downhill. Next to Miami, um, we've seen Carson Beck be more supplemental to their offense in that they've been relying on the run. They did it against Texas A&M with Fletcher taking over that second half, and they did it really well against Ohio State. So I think Ole Miss is going to do their best to basically take away the run game. I don't know how much success they're going to have with that, but we've also talked about this being Miami's problem. And their two losses, they get 7 interceptions that Beck's thrown, and turnovers were problems with him in the past. So is he going to be able to limit the turnovers? And what actually helps Miami in this situation is Ole Miss ranks really low in turnovers forced. They're ranked number 96th in the country in turnovers forced a game with just around one per game. So if Carson Beck is able to have that run game going for him and be able to do what he just did against Ohio State and throw for maybe 180 yards or 200 yards and be super efficient on third down, that is going to be a key for Miami as well as like their defense just mucking up this game. Second to last thing, the red zone, like we just said in the last game, is going to be a huge thing. The only issue with this is Ole Miss defense ranks 117th in red zone efficiency, stopping teams when they're in the red zone. So if Miami's able to convert, they might only need 24 points to win this game, or they might only need 17 points to win this game if they're able to shut down Ole Miss's offense a little bit. But this is the thing that you just can't really quantify, and it's the motivation factor of Ole Miss. And I wish that this was getting talked about more in the media, like a lot, obviously so much on Chambliss, but you have to imagine every single day in those facilities and all the time in the locker room. Like they're obviously never going to videotape this, but Goldie is probably saying to them every second of the day, he didn't believe in you. No one believed in you. He left you to go win a national championship, and look where we are right now. They quit on you. No one thought that you would be where you are, and it's like they're playing with borrowed money and they're on stolen time.
You
So
think you think he could say that because the other assistants in the room are also leaving? Do you think he can even say that? Because like Charlie Weiss is like, I mean, like I'm going, but I mean,
Oh, I didn't even think about
I'm
Charlie
here,
Weiss.
I'm here by like technicality, but like I'm also gone. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if that can be your messaging when half your assistants are
Those
also
guys
gone.
know. Those guys know it though.
Yeah, yo, they know it. That's an
It is being
intrinsic
told to them.
locker room thing. That's just that's not even being told them. That's at training table after Tuesday practice with the fellas, like just eating dinner. They're like, man, that fucker, like, that's when that's. I feel like that's when that's coming in. So I think you got the right feel. I think the message is gonna. I can't. I don't think Pete Golden's standing up there like traitors.
But yeah, no, I mean, all things aside, what a cool semifinal that we have.
Yeah.
Two flashy teams too. It's gonna be an awesome uniform matchup on the field. You got
Hopefully they wear
Miami's.
the baby blues. Like
They
goodness
are.
gracious. Okay,
They
thank you,
are.
thank you. Ole Miss.
Ole
Why
Miss,
are we
the Ole
throwing the
Miss
camo?
faithful's pretty. The Ole Miss faithful's pretty pissed because that was like Kiffin's darling was the baby blue, and they want the traditional like dark blue.
They're reclaiming the baby blue from Kiffin.
I like
Ole
it.
Miss is immune to wearing their school's actual color, which is dark blue. So
I didn't even know. I thought the dark blue was like was the alternate. I feel like I see the baby blue
no.
way more.
Yeah, because that was Kiffin's thing was the powder blue.
Up until Kiffin got there with his high water pants and loafers, they were navy blue and gray. And then they would throw in the red jerseys when they played Bama from time to time with like
Yeah,
Dante Moncrief and all them.
yeah, I do remember
Are you
that.
taking Ole Miss, Sam?
It'll be on the. I don't know yet,
I like that. I like that.
Undecided still.
but I
I
just
Um,
want
have this awesome Ole Miss future, and I feel like bad picking against them. But like, I don't know.
Game time
I
decision.
want I want to preface two things before I make my prediction. First thing, just want to quickly dunk on the Notre Dame program and their fans and everyone else that
Ooh,
thought
I
that
like
Miami
this.
shouldn't be in the playoffs just because of what they've been able to pull off so far. Retroactively making fun of them and in the moment as well. And it's just funny in general. Second thing, I wore my solidarity orange to get back in the good graces of Miami fans that hate me after my prediction in the Ohio State game. So I'm pandering to them. And 2 points on the game. And the reason I think it's going to swing in Miami's favor. One, Miami has found the formula to win on offense. And similar to what Sam was saying about Ole Miss being hot and Chambliss being on a heater and sometimes it's just unstoppable. I think the Miami trenches are can be looked at in the same light. And they're dominating the line of scrimmage in every game they play. Their offensive line has been able to run the ball against Texas A&M and Ohio State, two of the best defenses in the country. Ohio State in particular was very surprising to me and just showed me that they're going to be able to line it up and run it against anyone. And that's the formula for them to win. It's can they run the football? I think it's very doable against Ole Miss. And the other piece of that formula is make it easy on Carson Beck. Don't ask him to throw the ball 35 times and ask him to make the easy throws when the field's being opened up a little bit because you have to commit to stopping the run more. And when Carson Beck's in a situation like that, he can produce at a very high level and can be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And he's been in that position so far in the playoffs, and I think that formula can easily continue against this Ole Miss defense. And both of those things being considered, I think it's hard for me to see a way that Ole Miss's defense can stop Miami, and I think they'll be able to put up points against them if they're able to put up points against the other Ohio State, and then they were able to beat Texas A&M, not put up a lot of points, but that game had special circumstances. And then I'm just really, really excited for the best on best that we get in this game. It's Ole Miss's offense, which is arguably the best in the country, with one of the best QBs in the country, and it's Miami's defense, who outside of their ability to rush the passer, they have some of the best tackling linebackers and defensive backs in the entire country, and you see them fly around the football. And it's jumped out to me in every game they've played is the way that their corners and safeties and their backers too, who are usually good tacklers, but the way their DBs tackle is
Unbelievable.
the biggest indicator of the physicality level of that team and what they hang their hat on. And it's seriously impressive to me.
I mean, Jacoby
And
Thomas, Zachariah Poyster, and
mhm,
Deontay Scott. Like those three guys are unbelievable in the secondary.
yeah, and it's just I mean, it's hard for me to see a way Ole Miss can win. If Chambliss has and just lights the world on fire and is able to do similar things to what he did against Georgia, then they have a shot. But I just think their defense is too havable, and Miami's going to be able to impact Chambliss in a way that Georgia wasn't really able to. And I just can't see a way that they lose this game. I may come back to bite my words like I did for Miami at Ohio State, but I think Miami is going to show up and bring that level of physicality we've seen and be able to dominate this game. So I'm going to pick Miami. I'll take them to cover, and I think they're going to punch their ticket to the national championship, setting up one of the most intriguing title games we've had, I'd say ever. Miami versus Indiana, which would be completely absurd, but this is the world of college football we're in right now.
Yeah, Duska, I wanted to add on your strength and strength. You said like um the defense of Miami and the offense of Ole Miss. I wanted to just zoom in on one key matchup that I think is a strength for both teams, and that's Ole Miss's protection and Miami's edge rushers. So Miami is number one in the country in sacks, but Ole Miss played Oklahoma, who was number two in the country in sacks. And although Miami is the best edge rushing duo in the country and Oregon might be second, a close third may be Taylor Ween and Mason Thomas for Oklahoma. And they only got one sack. Trinidad Chambliss was kept clean most of the day. He had over 300 passing yards, no picks, and a touchdown. And he was really efficient that game. So um, Miami's edge rushers are a problem, no doubt. But Ole Miss doesn't just like put their tackles in one-on-one situations and just says like, here you go, like go ball, fellas. Dude, they're gonna run the ball. They're gonna try to get Kawan Lacey going. That helps your tackles. They're also going to they're oh wow. Bomb Perry bomb in the chat. But we'll get to that later. Ole Miss doesn't put their tackles in a ton of disadvantageous situations. They're going to run the ball. They throw a quick game. They have a mobile quarterback. They use their backs and their tight ends in protection. Kawan Lacey can pick up blitzes, and they help those guys out. So Diego Pounds and Jaden Williams are their tackles, and they're going to get help, but they do need to be dialed. They will have to be dialed in because there's going to be times where they are left on an island. And then this is the place where I think this is why I lean Miami. I'm picking Miami to win this game, and it's because Ole Miss is the most limited defense left in the field, probably in the they were the most limited defense left in the playoff last week. But what's interesting about their defense is they have two defensive tackles with over 55 tackles. Will Eccles, who's their best player on defense, has 62, and Xavier Harris has 56. To contrast that, Miami's interior D linemen, their starters have 27 and 25 tackles, meaning that Ole Miss really relies on their two interior D linemen to two gap, meaning when they button press with a guard, they're responsible for the gap to the left of them and the gap to the right of them, which is impressive how they're able to do that. I just think that and when Miami's going to run the rock down and just at will try and run the football and try to establish themselves physically, I don't know if that's physically tenable to have those guys have so much pressure on them to stop the run. I'm telling you, it's crazy that interior D linemen have over 55 tackles. So that's where I think that Miami might exploit them and look in the third and fourth quarter. That's where I think Mark Fletcher can get going. Similar to how he did against Texas A&M with the fourth quarter, he kind of blew up. I would expect that's kind of my prediction for where this game goes, and I have Miami winning. Although Trinidad Chambliss is my favorite player in college football, besides Navy players, and expecting a fun game, and I think Ole Miss is going to score the rock, and would be an electric Miami Indiana championship. Did you see what they were calling this game online?
No.
Yeah,
The Confederates versus the
Miss
convicts.
Kev. Yeah.
The Confederates.
Yeah.
I was gonna say just my quick thing, real quick. I think the only way that we've seen something I am interested to see, the only thing that we've kind of seen give Ole Miss fits on offense this year because Charlie Weiss Jr. has just been dialing it up all year. I hope that he gets a coaching job in the NFL so he can leave college football for Georgia's sake. But he's been dialing it up all year, and the way that you can beat his style of offense that Ole Miss has been running for years is a lot of man coverage, which is what UGA used in that fourth quarter of the first matchup to really shut them down and be able to have a chance to come back and win. So I'm interested to see because I think Miami has the better personnel than Georgia to be able to do that with their D line getting pressure rather quickly. Because like Georgia didn't have that, and obviously that lacked, and I think Miami does with Bain and Mesidor. So I'm really interested to see that matchup. And one running back that I'm interested to see for Miami is Charmar Brown. He was the North Dakota State running back last year. He transferred there. He scored in the
Oh,
semifinal
is that
versus
the backup that we were talking about that
yeah.
earlier? That's his
Yeah,
name.
he's a
Yeah, dude,
semifinal. He
he's
scored against
good.
Ohio State, but he's really good. I mean, he balled out in the FCS title last year. But I think he's going to be Fletcher's going to be. I think Fletcher's going to be important against Ole Miss's defense, but I think Charmar Brown giving that like the second win and kind of giving a different dynamic than just like the bruiser Mark Fletcher. I think that'll be interesting. I think he's going to have a lot of success. But all in all, I can't I have to root for Ole Miss now. So I'm gonna take Ole Miss in this game to beat Miami.
I like that, Arch. And with that, that's going to be our full playoff breakdown segment. And we're going to get into a little bit of portal stuff. But Sam Perry, thank you for joining the podcast with us today. And
All right, I'll catch you boys later.
yeah,
Good stuff. Peace out.
we'll see you in a bit. And Luke Duska is back. So, fellas, we're just going to hit a little bit of the portal here. Your thoughts. I'm pulling up just the On3 portal rankings, and I kind of want to get individual up here because right now I just have, here we go, player rankings. All right. So, okay.
What are you looking at On3?
Yeah, On3. So, okay, first we'll just start with the commitments that happened. Josh Hoover, TCU quarterback going to Indiana. Me and Dusko both really like this. I think Arch is a little bit lower on this. I just think Hoover is going to be operating in a system that he just has a luxury. He's working with luxury brands. He's going to have a run game. He's going to have good O-line play. He's going to have good receiver play. He's going to have great coaching. He's going to have a great defense. And he was really good for TCU this year without all of that things. And Sonny Dykes runs a great program out in TCU, but it's not the program Kurt Cignetti runs. And I think Hoover has got a good arm. He makes some fantastic throws. I think he's going to cut back on some of his decision making where at TCU, he's forced to push the ball down the field and forced to be a hero. He's not going to be forced to do that. Even Mendoza, the Heisman winner, there are very few points in the season where they asked him to be somebody he wasn't or try to be a hero. And then when they did need a big drive, he was able to do that. But he didn't just put one together himself. He had a conglomerate of weapons and a good O-lineman and a defense that kept him in the ball game. So I think Hoover's going to do really well there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've seen Indiana's had two transfer QBs in their 2 years in the Cignetti era. Both have succeeded. Obviously, Mendoza won the Heisman. That's a different level than anyone would have expected him coming in there. And I think Hoover is just a pure passer of the football, and they're going to put him in a position to be able to execute and make big plays. And he's not going to be asked to play hero ball like you said, like he was at TCU. And I think that's a great combination for Indiana, and I think it's a great combination for Josh Hoover. And I think that you should just expect at this point when Indiana takes in a quarterback out of the transfer portal, you should expect them to have a very productive year just based off precedent. And I would expect nothing less of Hoover.
Yeah, I was kind of a little like Chuck said. I was a little lower on this solely because I think that Mendoza is a much higher level processor of like defenses in the game than I think Hoover has been. Hoover's decision making, Chuck touched on, has been very spotty at times. And from what I remember watching them this year and last year, whenever he was the guy at the helm for TCU, it was kind of it's kind of like a Carson Beck style where he won't make like a lot of like bad decisions like constantly, but when he does, it's like games that it completely blows up your offensive scheme. Um, but I can't doubt what Sig and his offensive staff can do. So, and I think he's better than Curtis Rourke was, and they made it to the playoffs with him. So, I'm just a little more down on it, but I think that's another great reload for them.
All right, next guy. We've got Sorsby to Texas Tech. This is one where they were ranking him the number one player in the portal. Arch, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I think he's got great size. He's 6'3", big kid, super athlete, like twitchy, like just a really good athlete. And he's going to do well at Texas Tech because Texas Tech is going to play inferior competition. He's going to have a litany of weapons, and he's going to make shit happen. But in the highest leverage moments, one thing quarterbacks have to do, well, two things. They have to routinely make the right decision and then deliver the ball accurately. his decision making is pretty good. It's solid. It's not bad. He's a little bit late. He's kind of late, but I think him being late is more tied to his footwork. And this is a little nerdy, but he's always throwing off of his back foot, and he's got a weapon of an arm. He's got a spongy arm that can just contort in different ways. But he's over reliant on it and not relying enough on his footwork to be accurate and on time. So that's why I like Levitt a little bit better. He plays a little bit more in his frame, same as Hoover, as opposed to Sorsby. And Sorsby is the bigger and better athlete, but I think that might get him into some trouble, just like throwing balls late and poor footwork and throwing off his back foot. Also, he had it pretty well at Cincinnati this year. They ran the rock. They had two really good freshman running backs. So, it wasn't like he was just playing hero ball all year for Cincinnati. That was a real football team.
Yeah, I'm not very high on like 5 million, number one player in the portal, ranked above like the likes of Levitt. I would it was like Levitt. It's like it was a ridiculous ranking to me. I think it's a ridiculous price tag to pay for an average at best quarterback, in my opinion. And I don't think this elevates Texas Tech's ceiling any more than the likes of Baron Morton would.
Yeah, I think he was a beneficiary of a really, really strong rushing attack. And I think that it's to me, that comes with more questions when I see the way Cincinnati attacked on offense. Clearly, he can work in that structure where you have a really strong run game, but I think almost any quarterback can do that. So, yes, I think he's great arm, can make the plays, but like Arch was saying, I don't know if that's like a game changer, like bringing in like a Sam Levitt could be. I think that's just bringing in a solid, proven quarterback who won't make a lot of mistakes and has won football games, and he's gonna do that at Texas Tech, but I don't know if that is that much different, like Arch was saying.
Dusk, a quick question, just because I'm literally just scroll perusing on three, but Maurice Venny, Roman Catholic, Philadelphia,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
PA, he's Vanderbilt.
Yep.
He's going to Vanderbilt. I see that in Vanderbilt.
Yeah, an old teammate. He was my teammate for a few years. He's a year younger than us, and he's had a crazy path. He went from Army to Morehouse, and now he's committed to Vandy. He got recruited as an offensive lineman, but he's now a tight end,
Yeah.
and he's headed to Vandy next year. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do that. Where did you see? What's he ranked in on this?
No, well, I was just on the team rankings, and
Okay.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I already got off. Another thing is Clemson has three guys in the portal they signed. They signed a kid from ODU, Cal, and Penn State, so they're getting a little more active in the portal, but probably not enough to.
Arch, what do you think about Byron Brown to Auburn?
I mean, he'll probably be the best athlete straight away, like as quarterback wise, in the like as him and Arch Manning are probably like the most physically gifted, I'd say, like athlete wise. But I don't. I mean, it's going to be like it's a very scheme dependent. Is his like
I
throwing
agree, Arch.
ability, and like I mean, I think he'll be fine. I don't think his. I don't like. I feel like his decision making isn't that horrible.
He's my
It's
early candidate for get benched early.
I
I
think that the staff
they did
continuity
bring in his
plays into his favor.
Yeah, they did bring in the backup from USF for his backup. So hilarious. The entire quarterback room is going to be South Florida
Yeah,
guys now. But I mean, I don't hate it. It's just like it's very like I said, it's scheme dependent. Like Byron Brown, it's not going to be because Byron Brown. Well,
yeah.
like the scramble stuff like that. Yeah, you're not. He's not dialing up in the pocket like all game and
I
going to
don't
beat an
think
SC defense.
I don't think Golish would ever admit this to anybody, but I think he's more worried about not being a disaster in year one than he is being really good. And Byron Brown, in his opinion, is like, all right, this is a guy I know what his performance level is, and I've been with him for a season. Like I know I can get 6 wins out of this guy and not be as a disaster to like build the program. Instead of like swinging for they wouldn't be able to get one of those elite tier transfer portal quarterbacks. They'd be in like that next pool, and if they miss then you're like, oh wow, we just went 3-9, and like they want to just burn my house. So I do think like Byron Brown seems safe. Like, all right, I know this kid, but I don't think that's like I'm not moved as like, oh, watch out for Auburn next year. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna have to show me.
I think one of the most interesting pieces of the portal as well right now is the chips that haven't fallen. Like obviously Sam Levitt is still out there and he's visited a few schools, but no one's really certain on him yet. Rayola is still out there, and there's a lot of new coaches at new schools that they don't really have their quarterback situation figured out immediately. And things that come to my head: Florida, Lagway's leaving; they have to bring someone in. Virginia Tech needs a QB. And if you guys think of any other places, just rattle them off. But there's a lot of
Tech got a QB today.
who'd they get?
Grunkmeyer, Penn State
Grunkmeyer.
guy.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't see that.
Grunkmeyer. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Grunkmeyer.
Florida technically already has their guy too. They signed Aaron Philo, who was like the backup. He was the guy I was raving about at Tech last year. It's their backup.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
don't.
okay.
I just. He's not like a quarterback that like you sign and you're like we're good on the quarterback position. You know what I mean? Like they need to
Yeah.
probably bring in another guy.
Aiden Childs
He just
to
committed to Northwestern. I was about
Northwestern.
to
I
bring
like
that
that a
up.
lot. I
All
like
right.
that a
That
lot.
actually moves me with Chip.
That
Chip
does.
Kelly's there, right? Is he
That
there?
moves me.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
moves
Yes.
me. Northwestern was pretty good this year, honestly. They were much better than I
Yeah,
expected.
they were.
I was
Yeah.
also on the Virginia Tech front. I was pretty impressed by Grunkmeyer in the bowl game I went to. I thought he
Gamer.
made a lot of good throws in that game.
Gamer.
Yeah, he
And
played really well in my opinion.
yeah, so I'm excited to see what he's able to do in that VTech system with
Okay.
his old head coach.
Can we talk about just Penn State importing a Big 12 roster into the Big 10? We'll see how that goes.
It's a bold strategy.
Bold strat. Just bring in a Big 12 team that was fine and just make it your team. And my dad was like, "Yeah, well they were like, yeah, plus the other guys they have." And I was like, "True to a point, but they lost a lot of playmakers too. It wasn't like they just brought in a sick high school class or I mean, I think it's again, I think it's the same thing I just talked about with Alex Golich. I think proof of performance, he knows like Matt Campbell knows he can put a watchable squad on the field with the Iowa State guys he's got. What do you guys think about that? I mean, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they lost some of the guys that they like too. Like Abu Sama was an Iowa State running back. He was kind of the 1-2 punch with that white dude Hanson, and he committed to Wisconsin. So it's like I
Yeah.
feel like they're losing. Like they're importing most of their class, but it's like they're still losing. Like
It's like I wasn't
some
that
of these guys
moved.
entering the portal isn't. Yeah, I'm not like up in arms over like Penn State with bringing in these Iowa State guys. That's just me though.
You mean like you're not like that excited for what's coming?
Yeah. I'm not like I don't think they're gonna like take
I mean,
the league by storm.
I
Like,
like Carson Hansen. Like he's a cool white running back. I like him. But like, dude, their receivers, they brought in like all their receivers and like Brett Eskelson, like he was their leading receiver. He had 30 catches for like 526. Like, yeah, he was good, but it's not that moving. I'm not that moved.
Who's going to win more games, do you think? Virginia Tech or Penn State?
That's an awesome question. We'd have to
Virginia
pull,
Tech's schedule next year is pretty tough, right?
yeah, we'd have to,
Yeah,
Virginia Tech
it
schedule is
is.
very tough.
They play like every good ACC team.
Miami, Clemson,
Or
and
traditionally
SMU, I
good ACC
believe.
team.
Yeah. I think they play Georgia Tech as well. Yeah, that one's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay, Penn State, they're gonna win their first 4 games because they play the Thundering Herd, the Owls, and the Buffalo Bulls. So the Owls at the Link. How about it? How does Temple keep doing this? And
Well,
then
that's like a traditional rivalry.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
usually go on and off.
Okay, sweet.
And then all the Penn State fans that didn't go to school there that live
Yeah.
in Philly can go watch Penn State.
Yeah, literally. Okay, so dude, the only really tough games Penn State plays next year are it's at Michigan, USC at home. They don't play dude at Washington. It's a joke of a schedule. Dude, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with Wisconsin. That's like 9 shoe-in wins. Shoe-in wins. I bet they lose one of those or 2 of those, but I think probably Penn State wins more games. If I had to make a guess. But
I'd probably say it's safer.
yeah, safer. But that's
I
me
think-
being a pansy because I want Virginia Tech to win more games. So
Yeah.
I'm just playing the odds. The odds would probably tell me. But who do I think is going to have better prospects going forward as a program in terms of like success winning their conference?
Penn State. Or Virginia Tech, yeah.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah. I have another one.
Yeah, let's go.
Auburn or Florida?
Florida.
More wins.
Florida.
Florida. Don't even know. Don't
Keeping
even know
Jaden
why.
Ball is basically like getting a portal guy in my opinion because
Yeah.
he never left Florida, but he was literally in the portal at while like it was like he was fielding offers from Texas and like school.
Is
I
it
mean,
is Rayola? Is Rayola Florida? Is that any juice or no?
I don't know, dude. That's a weird thing. I haven't seen anything about his recruitment. Like
Well,
usually you
dude,
see like guys where they're on
I just
visits.
saw a funny meme about uh Brett calling Pat Mahomes and saying he was committed, and everyone basically Rayola's dream getting lived out by someone else.
that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, because when you're looking, I'm looking at the portal class right now, and I'm just thinking like, all right, where's Florida fit into it? And it's like, all right, Levitt's out there, Rayola's out there, Lagway, who was like already at their place, Deuce Knight, I don't, he's like a Auburn like freshman, it looks like, and Prbula, but it looks like that's already a done deal. It just doesn't say where. Bryce Baker from East Forsyth, and
From UNC, yeah.
yeah,
Are you talking
Trey.
about the best available guys?
Yeah, I'm just talking about best available. Like who, like
Yeah.
where does Florida fit in this picture? Maybe they like a guy they already have on the roster. Could
Well,
be.
they
I just
had
don't remember if
they signed
yeah.
like Arch was just saying, the Georgia Tech.
Well, yeah, but he's just a guy like Summerall would be like hoping like that's asking to lose your job in year one if you just bring him in only and you're like
Oh,
we're good.
just Philo,
I'm sure they're in
Yeah,
the mix for
one of those
Levitt,
guys.
Rayola,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
and
I would say
Prebula.
if I yeah, Prbula would not move me. I'd probably say Auburn with Prbula.
That would actually be that. I think that'd be worse than taking somebody
I think
like
Philo.
that.
I'd
Would
go
that
with
be
Philo.
worse? That'd be worse than not taking somebody. Because
Is
I
there a
mean,
chance Lagway goes back at all, or no?
I mean, dude, he was on a visit to Florida State. Bro. Like, dude, you
Dude,
got
yeah.
like like that is so bad.
Dude, Caleb Hawkins going to Oklahoma State is unbelievable. It's pretty. It's what a get for them because he's the best running back in this class, in the portal class,
Yeah,
and they
a lot
figured
of
out a
these
way to keep
guys
him.
are a lot of these guys are like committed, but I don't know if they're like how committed, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
because I
soft
mean
commitment.
Kenny Minchie committed to Kentucky or no
Yeah,
Nebraska and then flipped in a day because Kentucky found out they weren't
Yep.
getting Levitt.
yeah, yeah.
Like, well, Calandria just committed to Nebraska and like
Mhm.
I don't know.
We also have to consider there's like the Trinidad Chambliss, like that's a factor as well. There's a guy we don't know about yet, and he's at a FCS school where he's at
Yep,
a
yep.
D2 program. He's going to go into a big school and win a job, and that's
Boston
a
College got theirs.
Yeah, the D2 kid from
Yeah,
what's his name?
Mason McKenzie
Yes,
from
yes.
GLIAC school.
Wait.
GLIAC or whatever.
I think it was the school Garnet. It was a school that Kabambe was at.
East Michigan
Saginaw,
or whatever.
Saginaw Valley.
Saginaw
Saginaw,
Valley.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
Also, I don't, Arch, you might already know the answer to this, but if not, I think it's a funny guessing game. Where is Jackson Arnold committed?
That's I don't know
I
the
know.
answer
I
either. I don't.
know. I
Wait,
know.
All
I
right,
don't know.
let
I
Chuck
don't know the
guess.
answer. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer.
It's really funny.
Troy.
It's
No,
Am I close or
no.
geography
It is a
wise?
colors.
G5. It's
School
a
colors.
G5.
Okay, can you give
School
me the
colors close.
can
It's
you
a
give me the
G5.
can you give me the
We're out west.
a region of America? Okay, out west.
West.
UNLV.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, come on.
I saw that. That's actually a perfect
Calandria
pick.
to Arnold is an interesting transition.
Yeah,
I
UNLV
think
lost.
forget-
They
Calandria
lost in
is
that
bringing a little
transition.
bit more to the table for sure.
Dude, I'm
So I'll
like
be interested to
filtering
see
through.
if I like Michael Hawkins to West Virginia. I think that's got some potential
That's
to it.
really
Yeah,
cool to me
I
because
like that.
he fits great in that
Dude,
system.
Michael
Mhm.
Hawkins is good. I liked him a lot.
Dude,
I'm
there's
deep in
just so
the
many
rankings
guys in
now.
Ooh, dude, here's a guy I didn't think of
Okay.
is Mercer's quarterback. He was pretty good this year, and he entered the
Yeah.
portal as a fresh. He won the Jerry Rice Award, I believe,
Mhm.
and he's in the portal. And I thought he would be a Toledo lot because that's where Mercer's coach went. And I
Mhm.
don't. He's still uncommitted. I don't know. I think my favorite guy is uncommitted in the portal right now, quarterback wise. Like I want Georgia to sign him is Michael Van Buren. That he was at
Mm.
Mississippi State
Oh
freshman,
yeah.
played a
Yeah.
lot 2 years ago
Yeah.
because Shapen got hurt, and then he was at LSU last year, and he came in for Nussmeier. I think he's I think he has low. There's a low risk, but there's a high reward because I think he's got all the he's a big.
He
Well, actually,
looks
he's not.
he looks he looks the
He
part.
looks like he looked the part against Georgia as a freshman. I remember he came into Athens and was slinging the pill. So
I think Georgia's in a good spot too because they can bring a guy. They can do a Dante Moore type situation where they bring a guy. If he wants to sit for a year, he gets to sit and then be
funny
ready to
enough, I
rock
wanted us to
in
get
27.
Childs. I would have
You want
loved
Yeah,
Aiden
Child?
like
Childs.
that would be perfect. But I mean, he definitely
I
wants to
just think it's
play.
hard because there's so many quarterback. Like every year, Georgia signs like a
Wait,
four.
is
This is our
Stockton
first year we
done or
haven't
does he have
signed
one
it.
more year?
He's got
No, he'll have one more
he's
year.
got one more.
And then we have a guy named Montgomery who was a 4-star. He's gonna be a sophomore this next year. Puglisi's gonna be a junior this
I have
next
a
year.
scenario.
And one of those guys is leaving, and then you're getting in that guy if he commits. God knows college we're with high school recruiting now, but he was at IMG, #1 player in America. You just got a lot, and you have a lot of moving parts. That's like a
Wait, did
I have
you?
a great scenario that Arch is going to hate.
Okay.
mhm.
All right, so this guy is going into his third year of college football. He'll be draft eligible, but I think he's widely considered a solid college QB, but not quite ready to go to the pros and could really benefit from potentially sitting out a year and then having a Dante Moore type season. I don't know if he has too much experience already to do something like that,
I know exactly who you're gonna say.
but it would be
Who?
perfect for him
Who?
to go to Georgia and sit for a year and then play in 27 for that team.
Can I
Lagway?
guess who it is?
No, not Lagway. Yeah.
He's Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
That's not
already
happening because
familiar with the
that's
staff.
I think that's Kirby's least favorite recruit of all time. So I don't think that would work. But
I
I
just
mean,
think that
yeah.
would benefit him in a
As soon as
situation
you
like that.
said, yeah, yeah, I
I
don't
think
like,
he's
dude.
probably too good to go and sit for a year.
Well, he's too good ego wise. That's for sure. I don't know about talent wise, but also like, would I take him over Gunner? Probably.
yeah.
I think like,
Or yeah, bring him
yeah,
in to compete. I mean, I wouldn't be that keen on
yeah.
replacing
Well,
Gunner, but
well, George is getting
hell,
shoved in a locker right now on the portal trail. So
Really?
we have one commit, and it's a safety from Clemson, who's a
it's still
hometown
early.
guy.
There's still a
Well,
lot of guys not
actually we
committed.
have two. Well, the problem is a lot of these guys we were supposed to get are already like we had an O lineman from LSU. He's like I forget Darius Klein or something that he was supposed to visit
Oh,
Athens this weekend.
Carius,
Carius,
what?
yeah,
Yeah, that guy.
yeah,
I know who you're talking
he was
about.
supposed to visit Athens this weekend, and
He's
it's
going to Ole
already
Miss.
committed to Ole Miss. Yeah, already
Yeah,
committed to Ole Miss, and like we just don't have the portal bag. Like
Bro,
that's the problem. Like
Coy Parrish from Minnesota, the
Minnesota,
safety.
Toy Pond.
He's in the portal.
he's taken
Yeah.
no visits either. He's taken nothing.
Oh,
Who
that
is
means
it?
he's
Ohio
already
State.
going somewhere. Yeah.
It's like some Big Ten team that just they
I think
after
it could
the
be Georgia. I think Georgia could be in the mix.
dude, that'd be sick. Coy Parrish is a
Like,
I think
baller.
Georgia's always in the mix. You're being a little too harsh.
no, dude, we're getting shoved. We just lost a receiver to LSU, the Kansas State guy, Jace Brown. He was supposed to
Ooh,
be. We lost him to LSU. We're like the problem is now we're
Are they
gonna
in the
sell
Cam
for a bunch of
Coleman mix or no?
no. As soon as Cam Coleman entered the portal, we were out of the mix because the fact that he was gonna ask for because if he when he entered the portal, that meant Texas A&M, Texas, Bama.
Mm.
Auburn was gonna like bid to get him back. And you had Texas Tech, like you had every high dollar
Yeah.
place
yeah.
in the country throwing money. And I think, although, dude, I would give a blank. Like I know how we don't. Kirby's very fringy with money, like stingy with it. I would give a blank check to that Penn State edge rusher.
Jazz Coleman.
Yes, I would give him like $3 million and say, "Come here and rush the pass for only. We'll take you out on second down." Like I don't care. Like he's a guy that could like if you hit on him, he could revitalize your like edge
So that's what they
position.
thought about the Army edge, the edge, the
Well,
Army.
Oh,
dude, he played finally in the Ole Miss game.
yeah, he didn't make as big of an impact as
No,
expected.
and they didn't even play the Zayden Walker guy that I said
I
that
would
would have been
Arch, Arch, Arch.
it made zero sense.
I put
It
in my
made zero
notes. I was
sense.
like, this is what I said in my notes, Arch. I said, let me find the Georgia game. Um, damn, I got a lot of papers here. And then also Noah Thomas didn't have a catch either.
Yeah, which is just like that one makes sense because I didn't think Young was going to be in the game plan as much
Yeah.
first game back, but he
But yeah,
was
Zayden
awesome. But I mean,
Walker.
yeah,
He's not.
he didn't record a snap, which makes zero sense to me. Whenever you
Wait,
had
no,
like
no,
it
no.
was
I
the
think
perfect,
he's a true freshman, I think, though.
yeah.
No. But he only played 4 games. They're keeping his red shirt.
But postseason doesn't matter for red shirts
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's true.
unless and well, I know it doesn't matter for regular bowl games. I don't know about like the
Yeah, I don't know about the
playoff though.
playoff. So
But
Did we even mention Damon Williams?
no. Oh my gosh, I can't believe
Yeah,
he's
we were
he
talking
doesn't
about
even show on
Sperry
three. He's in.
Bomb.
yeah,
I'm
Oh
I
yeah,
got
when
on
I
my
I'm
was going,
sad
ESPN
he's
alert,
in the
and then
portal.
Sperry texted.
I was excited to see what Washington could do if they retained him, and
I would have liked to see him year 3 with Jed Fish.
yeah,
why did that happen? Like, why is it
Dude,
that's like,
it's a do not contact,
if it's a
and when
do
you
not
think about
contact,
that,
that means he's going somewhere. That's already
but
locked
my
in.
thing is
what do you think? Who do you think? Who do you
what
think?
team
Oregon?
already
Oregon?
Oregon.
Got to be
Yeah.
Oregon. It has to be Oregon. It doesn't
Because
have to.
I think that means that Oregon got wind that they probably missed on Levitt.
Or or they got Levitt and he's going to Cal. Why would he do that though?
No,
He
you
wouldn't do
wouldn't
that.
go Washington to Cal.
Yeah, not with Todd Field,
Also,
but I was like,
Cal's got Sagapula.
I was just making
Yeah.
and then I was gonna. Well, I should have said Kentucky. I meant to say Kentucky, but
Yeah.
Kentucky already got their guy with the backup for Notre Dame.
Minchy's
Kenny
Notre
not
Dame.
Minchey.
bad.
Yeah, Kenny
That'd
Minchey's
be
good.
cool. Well,
You got to
dude,
think Will
I had
Stein
a
still might be fishing.
yeah, I had an interesting like little thing I saw on Twitter about Sam Levitt because you know how like it was like he didn't show up to the awards banquet and everything like that. That's true. LC. Um, dude, I think that Levitt got kicked off Arizona State's football team.
Really?
Yeah, I think he did. Some
I
guy
s-
that's an
I
Arizona
saw
State
that tweet.
insider. He like I don't know. He's like he like covers Arizona State, but it was like this. He said this like this is not a report. This is like a theory from me. And I'm pretty sure like because Dillingham came out and said that Levitt hurt his ankle playing pickup basketball.
Mhm.
And if that was true, like that's like one of the big no-nos. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
apparently, like he'd been like making. I can't remember like the exact phrase, or Dustin can correct me, but it was like he was basically like he was pissing off Dillingham, and then like that was like with how much money he was getting paid out of their whole like NIL thing. Like it was apparently like a bad situation all around. Like when the program with him, and like they're like the guy thinks that he got kicked off because he didn't show up to the awards banquet. Like was like it was like they said it was like a weird ending too.
He wasn't at the
Dude.
bowl game.
Dude,
Yeah,
that,
like it was like he completely like which
but
I
that
could see it.
sucks because like, dude, he was such a legend in Arizona State for what he did last year. And
Who did
then
they sign, or who's committed to
Cutter
them?
Bowley.
Oh, I see that Cutter Bowl.
Dude, I hate that.
He was
Nah, he'll
not
be
that bad at
good. He'll be
Kentucky.
solid.
I just don't think that that's a guy like he committed like a day into the portal, and I'm like, why were you so keen on him?
Yeah, you might be right. He might be better than I was. I saw him in some games where Kentucky was completely outmatched. So I'll rescind that, Cutter Boley. I'll give you a chance.
Austin Simmons or Cutter Bowley?
Simmons.
Austin Simmons.
I think that's great. That might be the first Missouri quarterback that's been able to throw the forward pass in 3 years.
True. That is. That's pretty big for them. All
Austin
right.
Simmons or Grunkmeyer?
Grunkmeyer.
Drunkmeyer.
Just
I'm telling you,
wanna
I
get
don't know
a
if I'm
feel
like I don't know
for
if
what
I'm
you
like
guys
too
think.
high on him, but I thought Grunkmeyer looked
I like
awesome this year.
Grunkmeyer. I like Grunkmeyer.
He also was like just a
Estimaker
fun guy
or
he was
Sorsby?
also Mestamaker barely, dude. I think I might be out on.
Is neither an option?
I think I might be out on Oklahoma State next year because of their like blindness to Mestamaker.
Wait. Probably Messmaker because he's a freshman.
Hmm?
He's a freshman, Mestamaker. So I'd probably lean him. He's got some development that he could definitely do.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you remember watching like North Texas' biggest games, it was USF, it was Tulane, and it was
Navy.
Navy. Like, he didn't light the world on fire in any of the, and he made like USF. He had like 3 or 4 turnovers. Like Tulane, he had a few
Some
turnovers. Some of them
inaccurate
were his
balls to
fault.
Wyatt Young.
Yeah, like
And Wyatt Young didn't help him out either, but and they didn't
yeah, like,
have
I just
they didn't
don't.
have his best their best Hawkins didn't play in the championship game against Tulane, so
Yeah, and also like,
Damon Williams or Byron Brown?
Demond.
Demond Williams. Demond Williams at least shows like he's like a scheme, not scheme proof,
Yeah.
but he can go in multiple. I couldn't see Byron Brown in anything but the what is it? The run it like what is
The run
what
and
do you
shoot.
call run and shoot like veer option like I don't see
The
him
goalish special.
Yeah.
like I couldn't see him go like George is like a very pro style offense. Like I couldn't see
No.
George
What?
going into like I couldn't see Byron Brown going into like a pro style offense and like
Killing
getting
it.
under
Yeah.
center on fourth down. He'd probably drop the snap. Like I don't see that.
I don't know if I said this one already, but Rayola or Lagway.
That is so good.
Those are like two of the same guys. Like they're the
I'd say
same person.
Rayola.
Okay. I have a two-pronged answer. Right now, Rayola. Who do I believe in more is a better QB in 2 years? Lagway.
Yeah, I just feel like I agree with Chuck. I don't think Rayola's gotten better since like his junior year of high school. I feel like he's been the same guy every year. Like watching him at least. Like I watched him in Buford, I watched him in Nebraska. Like he was just like the same to me. I don't know. You don't like I haven't seen like the development, like the strides from year 1 to year 2 in Nebraska, I would say.
He could end up at LSU as well. But I don't disagree, Arch. But I think getting with a guy like Lane Kiffin,
And
we really
Charlie
get to see what he
Weiss.
can do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's
I like Wyatt.
oh wow, it's over. It's over.
What?
Chaz Coleman is definitely going to Ohio State. He's
Yeah.
96% of the way there on like 96%.
Yeah, it's over.
I don't even know. Dude, I'm a fool for thinking George is going after any of these guys. I need to score like the 100s to find that.
It's insane that
Dude,
Pete Thamel
it's sad.
tweeted 4 days ago that Damon Williams agreed to return to Washington. And
Yeah, he signed a new deal. He signed a new
Yeah.
deal because under his portal thing, everyone was like the Washington Barstool was like, "What? He signed the deal?"
Dude, that's insane.
Which, dude, I think a more important thing when you're asking these portal quarterbacks is what they're getting paid. They say Drew Estimaker's a $2.3 million quarterback. Dude, get out of town. Like, no.
He's making more
dude,
than that.
Which is my point. Like that, I would rather pay 3 receivers. Like I would give Hawkins like $5 million, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, Estimaker, you either come here or like we're not paying you that much. Like, in Sorsby's $5 million is like Sorsby for $5 million you could get like
that's the biggest grift since America and the Louisiana Purchase. Like
yeah,
they
like
Texas Tech just lost a deal so badly.
Sorry,
like,
they have infinite money.
What is your upside? Like I don't.
Is there a cap on NIL? Like, isn't there supposed to be like some?
It's rev share now, so there's a cap on it.
There's 2 avenues for it. There's the rev share model, which is 20 million for all your sports, all your athletes, and there's the second one, which is supposed to be through the clearinghouse, where they have to determine every NIL deal as a fair market value, which is the CSC. I believe it's like the College Sports Commission. They're supposed to determine the fair market value using like Deloitte's like accountant and like fair market value thing. But the problem is that thing does not work because every single time, like, there's too many NIL deals for them to agree on it. So, like, Sorsby's not $5 million in the free market. Like, he's not worth that. But if the College Sports Commission was like, hey, you can't pay them that, and Texas Tech would be like, we'll see you in court.
Yep.
Like, they're not.
Yep.
Like, there's like, dude, and that was the
they're
whole
powerless.
thing. The second prong, that whole, like, cap thing was literally the perfect, like, talking point. It was coach speak. It was literally coach speak by NCAA. Dude, we fixed it. We got this clearinghouse. They're going to approve the deals. Like, they knew it wasn't going to work, but it was the hot topic, and everybody was like, yeah, we solved college sports.
So there's no
everyone
cap.
went home. No, like,
Not
there's
really.
no.
Oh.
Because that 20 million is probably 20 million. Like, that one is capped. Like, that one, they have to report that stuff. And, like, honestly, for most of us, a lot of that's probably going to be to sports other than football. Like, that 20 million now, because, like, you can go off the market and be like, here's, like, because if you paid Brendan Sorsby 25% of your entire university's student, there would be a revolution on that Texas Tech campus. The women's basketball team would be upset. Like I don't see that.
I have some intel, but once we end the show,
once we end the show, I did want to pick your brain. Where did Kamari Brown to Iowa though? Iowa
fired
got
up for the kid.
Rusher.
That's
He
had 12 sacks in FCS this year, so hopefully you can repeat that level of production.
All right, dude, we've been rambling along about the portal enough.
This is a long portal talk.
We'll get this out to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Join us there might be another episode or two coming this week. Just be on the prowl. Just be on the prowl. Who knows?
If you made it to the end of that portal discussion, you are a true diehard Forward Pass fan, and we really love you and appreciate you.
I think this portal is going to be our best stuff we do. Well, and it's going to be some of my best stuff. I love this stuff. So
yeah. So okay, listen, guys, enjoy some of the rest of your week. Stay tuned to the pod and have a good weekend. Well, I guess the games happen on Thursday and Friday, so excited for Thursday.
Enjoy that. Yeah. Let's go. Time.